When you're struggling with your dog, it's common to feel alone. The complex canine community is a supportive space for emotional well-being and mental health of guardians who are deeply impacted by their dogs. Created and led by licensed therapist and reactive dog owner Jess Adams, the complex canine community offers live group calls, mental health mini courses, discussion threads, and more. Join us today and find your dog people. Welcome to Straight Up Dog Talk, the podcast where pet parents, pet guardians, and pet professionals come together to dive into real issues in dog parenting. From controversial training methods to sensitive health topics, we're getting raw and real about what it means to care for our canine companions. Join us every Wednesday for unfiltered conversations, expert insights, and personal stories that will make you laugh, cry, and grow as a pet parent. No topic is off limits and no question goes unanswered. You won't get one perspective here. You'll get them all because every dog is different and every human is too. You can follow along on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at Straight Up Dog Talk or by visiting www.straightupdogtalk.com. Tune in from any of your favorite podcast platforms. Welcome to Straight Up Dog Talk. I'm Ed, and we are back again with another incredible guest this week. We have Jess Adams from Handlers and Humans. How are you doing today, Jess?
I'm awesome. It's Monday. I feel energized. I'm glad we're finally doing this. I feel like we've been talking about it for such a long time, so I'm excited.
It is exciting. I think that today we are just going to talk a little bit about what it's like to have a difficult dog and how to navigate your own mental health while having a dog that has mental health issues. I have been all over the spectrum from just a little bit of anxiety dog all the way to behavioral euthanasia with a dog. And it is something that you have to deal with, you have to talk about, you have to process and have to get through. And I think that sometimes a lot of us carry feelings over from previous dogs and we don't even realize that we're doing it. And now we have all these real life stressors, plus a dog that we don't understand its behavior, and we don't really know where to start. And when I stumbled across your account, there were so many reels. I swear to God, I probably watched like 30 of them. And I was like, my God, this woman is speaking my language. And we've been friends ever since.
That's right.
So I had to have you come on here and talk to people about it is okay to talk about it. It is okay to have your feelings about it. And it's okay to be salty about it sometimes. And that's, I think, the thing that I like about you the most is that you always let everybody have their cake and eat it too, because it's okay to be salty at your dog for being the way that they are sometimes. Does that mean that they don't need help? No. Does it mean that you need to help them? Yes, but it also means you need to help yourself so that you can help your dog. And working on yourself and your dog is actually a pretty great combination. So tell everybody a little bit about yourself, how this whole thing started, and a little bit about Dio.
Yeah, so Handlers and Humans is I've been calling it my passion project, but I'm working on being more embracing of it as being my soul project at this point. It's really something that I'm so committed to, and it's really kind of bringing together my background as a mental health professional and my lived experience as a dog mom who has been there. Dog mom who has struggled because my dog struggled, and I didn't expect to have a challenging dog. Like most of us don't expect to have a challenging dog. And I really needed to use and lean on my background in mental health as a licensed therapist to help me cope with life with him, to keep it sustainable, to keep showing up for him after all these years, and to learn how to enjoy him even when things were tough. And so I've just tried to take some of that experience and bring it together and bring it to the dog world. So Handlers and Humans is mental health for dog people, and hopefully it's something that can help people help their dogs. Yeah.
One of the biggest hurdles with social media is that everybody gets a dog and they think it's going to just be this flowers and sunshine, Snow White, Sleeping Beauty, whatever experience. And it's going to be talking birds and mice and everyone's happy and the dog is singing songs, Sound of Music style. And then you get a reactive dog. And it was a totally different feeling because immediately for me, it was like, what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? How did I mess this up? Did I contribute to this? Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah.
I contributed to this. But you do have to come to terms with that. And then you have to be able to sit down and say, okay,
now we move forward, and how do we do that?
Right.
And I mean, being in your groups and going through the exercises that you put us through and learning to talk to ourselves in a more polite fashion, as well as look at our dogs in a more polite fashion, has been really, really helpful for me. And yes, to anybody who's listening, I am a member of the Handlers and Humans community. I do participate at least once a month. Sometimes I'm just a little black spot in Zoom land listening to everybody else talk, but I'm there in the comments just chatting away because I'm usually working. But I do always drop in and try to take part in the exercises because they are really great and they are amazing. And everyone in the community is so understanding because they've all been there and they all get it. They've all seen it. They've all experienced it. And I have watched over the course of, gosh, I think it's been 6 or 7, 8 months maybe now.
Yeah.
That I've been there, watched other people grow. And it's so cool to see that and become friends with other people in the community and be able to share experiences with each other. It's really, really, really a cool thing what you're doing. What is your favorite thing about the community?
I think my favorite thing is the live groups that we have, is the live calls. I wish I could do one a day. Maybe one day I'll be able to, actually. I don't know. Like, maybe that's the dream. I could, and you know this about me, I could talk about this all day. I could talk about this stuff constantly. And so I think when we get together, twice a month, we get together for a live call, and it always just ends up going where it needs to go, right? The conversation always ends up going where everyone seems to need it to go. And so we all have a difficult, complex dog in common, right? Everyone has that experience in common, but the way that it impacts us might be different for everybody. And yet there are skills and tools and conversations and validation going on in there, and that I'm trying to bring to the table, but also that everyone else brings to the table, that really helps us support us and helps us feel seen, right? And you know that in there, we don't talk training because there is enough space out there. There are enough spaces out there that talk training. And sometimes people get really inundated with that, right? Sometimes it's too much. Sometimes it's like, this trainer says this, but this community said that, but this Facebook group told me this, but I got this advice from whoever. And it is so much. And there aren't spaces that are just for you that I'm, really aware of in the way that I try to create the space, right? I try to create the space in a way that brings real mental health tools to the table and weaves them in with what we all kind of go through. So that's probably my favorite part. But my other favorite part is seeing everybody become friends. We have 2 members right now specifically who are both living in the same country in Europe. And they, although are several hours apart, they had a meetup a couple of months ago, which was so cool. And they met each other in the community, and they both have reactive dogs, and they got to hang out and chat about it. And so I've seen those kinds of connections and things pop up here and there over the course of having this. And that's my other favorite thing for sure.
Love that because that actually has happened in the other community that I'm in, which is the Honoring Our Animals Pet Loss Grief Counseling community. And there have been women in other states who have gotten together and bonded over their grief and loss. And I think that is such a powerful thing. So when you can find people that speak your language, especially on topics like this, I think it's so, I haven't really gotten the chance to get to know a ton of people in the community, but I also haven't really had time to really invest myself in the community yet. But I'm sticking that
we're not going anywhere. We're not going anywhere. That's for sure.
It's going to happen. And I mean, there are definitely people in those groups that talk. And I'm just like, man, I hear you. I feel that. I see you and I understand that. And I also, like you said, we don't talk about like the professional part of it. You mark us. If we are a pet professional, we get a tag. So somebody, if they feel comfortable and they want to come to us, they can come to us and talk to us about whatever behind the scenes.
Right.
But we don't talk about that. We talk like, I'm a dog mom. And I think that's another way that I like to look at this podcast is I'm not just giving one perspective here because I'm talking about my mental health here. I'm talking about my disability here. But I'm also talking about my lived and worked experience as a vet tech, as a pet sitter, as a walker, and now as a dog trainer. And so I try to really give that open-minded, as Jerry would say, perspective on things because I don't think that you can look at stuff from just one way. And I think that if you try to look at something specifically this trainer said this trainer said this trainer said that. Well, how can we make all of these things work together for us? Can we take a little bit of this and a little bit of that and a little bit of this, and then that's what works? I think that going to multiple places and having multiple resources is kind of the best way to learn, which is why I have so many mentors, because I think that everybody has a way of teaching something that resonates with some people, but then there's somebody else that can teach it that resonates with other people. And even though they're saying the exact same things, the message isn't hitting the right way for certain people. And I think that that's what's really cool about your groups, is because everybody gets to say it from their perspective. And while I might resonate with two of the people that were in the group, I might not quite resonate with the other two people in the group, but I have seen conversations in the group that have been lived experiences for me. So it's just really neat, because I think it gives us such a broader idea of how to be compassionate for other people and how to look at scenarios and understand my scenario is not perfect, their scenario is not perfect, but look at this one activity that has brought us all full circle and made us look at each other and ourselves in a totally different way. And I think that is such a beautiful gift to give people.
Well, I'm glad that you're getting that out of it. That makes me so happy to hear, because I agree. I think getting information from multiple sources, now we do have to be careful a little bit, because sometimes we can sort of overwhelm ourselves with that. And it can actually sometimes turn into a bit of avoidance, right? So we're listening to too many voices, to too many spaces. We're seeking answers from everywhere versus taking action and experimenting and then seeing what works for us. We're constantly just searching for more info. And that can kind of backfire on us. And it sort of serves to support us in avoiding actually diving in and doing some work in a different way and trying things out. However, what is good on the flip side of having kind of multiple mentors or multiple spaces where you get different kinds of support, or that you can take different pieces from, is just that you can take different pieces from this community, this trainer, this person's Instagram, this book, whatever, right? And pull the pieces out that resonate with you, leave the rest, and really craft your own approach to your well-being and your dog's well-being, because there is just no possible way that there's a blanket solution for every single fathomable issue, whether it's dog training or mental health related. So something that I reference or parallel a lot is the idea of practice, right? The idea of evidence-based practice in the therapy world and in any sort of healthcare world is not just what's in the papers. It's not just what's in the science, right? It's a blend. It's a blend of the best available evidence. It's a blend of the practitioner's experience. It's a blend of the client's or the patient or the person or the consumer's needs, feelings, and preferences and context. Right? So we're bringing those things together, and that's what evidence-based practice is. And so you can kind of do that for yourself by looking in different areas and pulling the threads that really resonate with you, and then sort of weaving your own approach to supporting yourself and your dog at the same time with their behaviors and your own needs and well-being. But just be careful you don't go too deep into it and then just end up in this kind of spinning your wheels too, right? And never kind of trying to find what works for you.
Well, and that's the thing. Part of the whole situation is trial and error. You can't just research and never apply, right? You have to research, apply, apply.
And reflect. Right?
Yes.
Research, apply, reflect.
Yes.
Right? What worked for me here? What didn't work for me here? What worked for my dog here? What didn't work for my dog here? And I feel like, and I am super guilty of this, so please don't think that I'm saying this from some sort of enlightened place, because I am not. But we do not reflect enough. We spend so much more time in the research and planning phase of behavior change, so to speak, whether that's about our dogs or ourselves, either one. We spend so much time in that upfront planning phase and very little time in the reflection phase of what felt good here, what resonated here, what can I tweak, what can I change, what didn't work, and what can I learn? Those pieces need to be amplified so much more than they are, because we just spend all of the time in the planning and research.
I completely agree. I think that was a lesson that I learned pretty hard this year, actually, because I got really, really invested in my education and working towards getting my certification. And I was taking class after class after class after class. And it wasn't until I stopped taking classes and started focusing more on my mental health and my relationship with fits and working with a couple of different trainers to fix some things that we needed to work on, nail trims specifically, and being herded down the back steps, that I went, all of this stuff that I just read in books I can now apply. I just needed somebody to crank the key for me so that I could do that. Which is kind of the same experience that I've had in your group. Is I'm going to bring up, we had a private conversation the other day, and I sent you a message that was based on the group that we had the other night and the activity that we did. And you had said that in practice, we need to start talking to ourselves in a way that was more positive. And you said we need to say our name, and then we need to say the positive things back to ourselves. And I was in a place this weekend where I had some extra things came up. I created some content for my Amazon influencer account that I wasn't planning on. And I hadn't gotten through my checklist of things that I wanted to get done for the podcast, for the training account, and just something like my laundry and doing my sheets and things like that. And I was being really hard on myself. And I sat down on the couch and I took a really deep breath. And for whatever reason, you came into my mind, and I sat there and I said, Emily, you are doing 4 jobs right now. You are doing a really good job. These are all of the things that you have accomplished. And when I realized how many things I had accomplished and how many of those things were not on my list, I realized that I had exceeded my expectations of what the list was, because even though I didn't get to like 4 things on that list, I did 14 other things that weren't on that list. And so taking that break, taking that minute to go, okay, wait, stop, and really thinking about where I was mentally and emotionally, you know what that allowed me to do? That allowed me to go watch some really crappy Christmas movie for 2 hours and not feel bad about it with my hot cocoa and my dogs.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, that's like the perfect. I love that you messaged me that too, and I am going to share it. I know we were talking about that, but that is the perfect example of how the challenges that we have with our dogs, when we mindfully start to work through those, when we apply different skills and tools to help us work through that emotional experience, that we can then use the same skill set, right? The same skills and tools in other areas of our lives. And of course, the opposite is true too. If you've ever gone to therapy and you ever developed your coping skills, if you have a mindfulness practice, right? All of those things you can use in life with your dog, and everything you use and learn in life with your dog, you can use in other areas of your life. So in our group, we had a whole conversation about naming what we were proud of ourselves for with our dogs. And you were like, this is a perfect way to apply it to another area, non-dog related, of my life. And it was impactful there and here, right? And so doing this work, this sort of inner work for ourselves, it helps us in our relationships with our dogs, but it also has a ripple effect to all the other areas of our lives that we might feel similar emotions, that we might feel stuck, or we might feel like we're regressing, or we're disappointed in the progress we have or haven't made, or all of those things. The experiences are completely parallel. And I think that's one of the coolest things about having a tough dog, honestly. Like, I know that, and not everybody would, I know that if someone said to me in like year 2 of life with Dio, what do you mean this is cool? There's nothing to be grateful for here, and it's okay if that's where you are with it, because it's tough out there when you have a tough dog. It's valid to not be like, I'm going to learn from this. It's okay if you're not feeling like I'm embracing the lessons, but the lessons are there nevertheless. So, we have to also recognize how we can take them to apply to other areas of our life. It's a really great example of that.
Another great example that you have is finding these moments of connectivity with your dog. And you started this a while back, and that really inspired me this last summer of 2024. I worked with Jerry, and we work on working with fits in the front yard. I have this beautiful front yard. I have this patio that has this beautiful flower bed that blooms, and there's bees floating around. It's like the Cinderella Snow White experience, right? And I want to sit out there and enjoy it with my dog. I have a reactive dog that barks when the Amazon truck goes by, the mail truck, the kids on the scooters and the bikes and all that stuff. But I wanted to have a way that I could connect with my dog that was meaningful, that was just for me and him. So I worked with a trainer, because trainers need trainers too. I'm just going to say that right there. Trainers need trainers too. Just like therapists need therapists.
Therapists need therapists too. Listen, I have a therapist, and I'm always like crediting her all the time. I'm like, listen, my therapist told me, I know I'm a therapist, but my therapist told me this, and I'm like passing it along. They're like the mentors of the helping professions. Great.
Let me just put that out there. I have you, I have Beth from Honoring Our Animals, and then I have
Love
my
it.
general practitioner therapist. I have 3.
Yep, great.
So again, but you're all for different things.
Right.
You can't all speak to the same experiences. So
Exactly.
again, many pots feeding into one whole person here.
Mm-hmm. Right. Which is awesome. Like it's so great because I feel like you get so much out of that when you have specialists, I guess, so to speak, like for lack of a better word, that can help you really navigate specific experiences that where lived experience is very important to the support you're getting. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. So I took your inspiration and I worked with Fitz for 4 weeks solid. We worked on this. We worked on getting out and sitting there calmly and longer and longer and longer and longer and longer. And now my favorite thing to do when the weather permits is to sit in my front yard on a blanket with my dog and just enjoy the afternoon. Because Crazy Town just wants to play fetch all the time and be a riot all of the time. And I need those quiet moments.
Yeah.
And I can't always have them with both the dogs at the same time. Toby's quiet time usually involves the couch or the chair on the porch, while Fitz does Crazy Town. And then we'll come inside and maybe we'll have some peace and quiet for a little bit. But being able to have that same moment of connection like I have with Toby in the chair on the couch with Fitz in the front yard was kind of a game changer for us because I felt like it contributed to the other work that we were doing because I was giving him that one-on-one. This is just for us. This is something special. Your brother doesn't get to do it. And here we are just eating snacks and enjoying the sunshine. And I think that those things are so incredible when you can sit there with your dog and you can regulate your breathing together and you can regulate your heart rate together, but also be prepared just in case that spice decides to come out and go,
yeah,
because it happens.
Right. Well, and this is also a good illustration of how you need that quiet time and that quiet space and that kind of presence with him in order to do the crazy games of fetch or do the things that he loves to do, right? There has to be balance. There is balance in every relationship that is healthy. Every healthy relationship has that reciprocity where sometimes this is for me, sometimes this is for you. Sometimes we can meet in the middle and both of us enjoy something in particular, right? But all healthy relationships need give and take to stay healthy. So you're like, okay, I hear you, Fitz, that you need to have Crazy Town. That is an outlet for him. That's important to him. That's what he finds joy in, to kind of like play crazy games and be a little wild man and all that good stuff. But you don't necessarily have the capacity for wild man 24/7, which is fine and fair and okay. And that doesn't mean that you're not meeting his needs. That doesn't mean that you're not doing enough for him, because we hear that one all the time. I'm not doing enough, right? It doesn't mean any of those things. It means that in order to provide him with what he wants and needs, you also get to and need to prioritize the kind of activities with him and relationship with him that you want and need to give him those things. So, okay, we're going to practice the front yard stuff. We're going to practice these quiet moments because that fills you up to be able to show up for him big picture. Long term. Yeah.
I think that's one of the biggest things about Handlers and Humans and Straight Up Dog Talk and the training is that no guilt, no shame, no judgment. We are here to support you. And we're here to say, hey, it's okay to feel like this. And it's okay to need to walk away. And it's okay to go, I cannot do this today, because everybody has emotions. And I think society for so long has tried to tamp down our emotions and tell us how to feel and tell us how to think and how to raise our children and how to raise our dogs. And we have all of these set expectations that aren't even real. Who decided that this was the expectation? Who decided that this was the right way to do this? Who decided that this was how you have a dog? This is, the tool that you use. This is whatever. And I feel that there's been so much controversy in the training world lately that it's not making anything better for a lot of pet parents because, like you said, there was already that, which way do I go? And now this one and that one. And I think that that's not helping anybody. So I think that spreading that message, take care of yourself. That will help you take care of your dog. And then find that perfect trifecta of what your needs are, what their needs are, and then what you can do together and really bring it all together as a whole piece is such an important message. And I really think that you're pushing that out there to people. And I cannot tell you how many times a week I'm like, oh, have you heard of Jess? Do you know what Handlers and Humans is? You need to talk to Jess. Go watch this reel, because I know there are so many people out there that are looking for support and just don't know where to find it.
Yeah. Well, and that's sort of where I started. Dio's 10, almost 11. So if you can rewind to a decade ago in the dog world and social media world, it was a different vibe out there for sure. I did feel very alone in my experiences with him because I was kind of, right? There wasn't a lot of this discussion out there. There wasn't Facebook groups with 50,000 people dedicated to having tough dogs. If there were, my gosh, I would have been so happy about that. I'm sure there were spaces, but they weren't as prolific as they are becoming, and they're not growing like they are now, which is amazing. And so that's what I didn't have and didn't feel. My trainer at the time, who I was working with at the time when things were really rough, she did hold a reactive dog class specifically, which I know that was one of the only places where you could see other people experiencing this too, was going to your group class and maybe bonding with the people in your group class. So I was lucky that I had that, and I became close friends with my trainer. So I had someone to kind of emotionally vent to. Shout out to her for holding space for me for that for a long time. But I did feel very alone in it because all of my friends' dogs were quote unquote fine and didn't have any issues. And I just didn't know anyone else who was going through what I was going through, both with the behaviors and how it was affecting me emotionally. So I'm so glad that's like so much more of the conversation now. And I want to take it a next step further, which is, here are the actual tools to help you deal with this. A lot of people are having the discussions, which is so, so great. Normalizing this stuff, bringing it up, bringing it into their training conversations and all that. And then that's where I want to come in and say, okay, here's what you can do with it. Here are some support, some services, some resources to actually help you navigate these feelings.
I think that it's incredible, and it has helped me massively already. And I obviously plan on sticking around because I love it. It has helped me so much. Even reflecting back, like you said, we need to reflect more, right? Going back to my dog Izzy that I had to behaviorally euthanize, and this was back in 2010. We had been living the crate and rotate life for 3 or 4 years.
Wow. Yeah.
She was attacking one of my other dogs. I had a trainer, his name was Ron, who unfortunately passed in 2019. He used to work with the police department in Dallas, and he trained the bite and protection dogs for the police, the search and rescue dogs. And I would go with him and go to the training fields. And that's where I got my experience in bite work and all that kind of stuff. And he would come over and he would work with Izzy, and we did e-collars. We did prong collars. We gave her activities. We had all of these things that I had never even heard of or thought of as a person, because when you have a reactive dog, you have to find somebody that knows what the heck is going on, because you didn't expect this, right? Unfortunately, it got to the point where she almost killed one of my other dogs, and I did have to put her down. She had been on medication and all of that stuff. But even at the time, the vet that I worked for prescribed her the medication. We didn't really talk about it. I didn't really have any support. And at the end of it all, after I had put her down, I had called Ron on the way home, telling him that I had to have her euthanized and that my other dog was in emergency surgery because she'd had her throat ripped open. He said to me, "Emily, you did more for that dog than anybody I have ever worked with in my entire life." And this guy was like 60 or 70. He was the most titled, ribboned guy that I had ever met in my entire life. And for him to say to me, "Emily, you did more than anybody I've ever worked with would have even thought to do. And you lived this way so that she could have a life." Like, look at that.
Right.
And that's kind of like a lot to swallow when you think about it, because I know that if I'd had a resource like you back then, it probably would have been maybe not an easier decision, because I don't think that's the right word to use, but I would have felt more supported. I would have felt seen, and I wouldn't have felt like this evil, awful person, because the vet that I worked for didn't even want to put her down until it got real bad. That's a hard conversation to have with a veterinarian. And as a person who works with dogs who have behavior issues, I definitely want to give a dog a chance, and I'm definitely going to have an opinion on it. But it also kind of factors into, is this safe?
Right.
Is it right for your family? Is it right for the dog, what are our other options? Can we rehome the dog safely? Can we find a unicorn home for it? Is this dog mentally and emotionally stable? Is someone's life at risk, whether that's another pet or a human? And I think that these are really, really hard conversations to have. And I know that they're conversations that you have had with other clients, because when you get into what you're doing, you have to cover a spectrum of things. And whether that's just minor reactivity or somebody's just had a dog for the first time and they just don't realize that this is actually how dogs are, because dogs are not humans and they do weird stuff, like their buttholes, right? Like people who don't have dogs don't know that.
Right.
And so a little bit of guidance, a little bit of support goes a long way. But when we get into topics like, is this the right dog? Did I make a mistake? This dog is hurting people. It's killed a cat. It's frequently killing squirrels in the backyard. It's killed an entire set of rabbit babies or whatever. And now we have to kind of start, is this more than behavior? Is this more than some instinctive genetic quirks, and really kind of get to the root of it? And I think that being able to talk to a medical professional, a veterinarian, a vet tech, a dog trainer, a behaviorist, all of those things is really, really important. But I also think that talking to you or someone like you is really important, because those decisions take a massive mental and emotional toll on you as a person. I carried that around with me for 14 years before I was able to set it down after therapy.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting too, because when I started working with folks one-on-one in 2021 with Handles and Humans, actually technically earlier than that, but officially 2021, I feel like I was actually doing it much longer than I realized. I didn't expect, and I feel like I should have expected, but I didn't expect to have so many people coming to me to discuss behavioral euthanasia, to discuss rehoming. I was prepared for it. I had that in my mind, that some folks will probably benefit from having conversations about this, but the amount of one-on-one clients that I've had and supported through that process by this point was definitely more than I expected. And I am happy for that, not because, of course, that they were in those situations, but happy that people are seeking support and resource to talk about it, because it is so stigmatized. There aren't many spaces where this is okay to talk about or that it's understood. And sometimes people really need that neutral space held for them to explore whether that decision is right for them. So I've had the whole spectrum. I've had people come to me and say, I don't know if rehoming is the right move. I need to talk about it. And maybe not necessarily come to a decision, or maybe they do one way or the other. I've had people who have already made the decision, and I help kind of work them through the before, during, and after, whether it's rehoming or BE. So it's definitely been something that surprised me and shouldn't have surprised me, but I'm really glad and very much honored, honestly, to be doing that work with people and supporting people in that way. And that's something I really want to do more of. So I'm kind of scheming about how that can look in the coming years, because it is just vitally important for people who are in that position to have support.
It is incredibly vitally important. And I think that, again, this is an area where people do not, one, know that there is an outlet for it.
Right.
But two, again, it is so stigmatized, and we have got to stop doing that. We have got to be able to talk about things, and we have got to be able to feel like less isolated. Because even in just human things, I've talked about this on other episodes, my disability and having daily pain, daily migraines, things that I go through, things that I push through, things that I kind of have to ignore in order to just survive on a day-to-day basis. And I can't tell you how many times I was told over the healing process when someone would ask me, how are you feeling? And I would say, well, and I would tell the truth. And the response would be, oh, no. Nobody actually wants to know how you're feeling. Don't say that. Don't talk about that. Don't do that. And it was so disheartening. And it has taken me all of this time to recover from that surgery. It took me probably about 5 years physically. I had to learn how to write again. I had to learn how to walk again. I had to all this physical therapy. It was terrible. But mentally and emotionally, it took me a lot longer, because I did not have a support system that was supportive. My family was supportive, but they weren't understanding. There are still sometimes I'll say something about my health situation. And it's like they forgot or something. I
Yeah.
also feel a lot of times that when you get that label, you're disabled or you have mental health issues, you get that label from other people. It's like all of a sudden they forgot. I was going to school to be a doctor. I was working as a vet tech, working to be a veterinarian. I was on a path. I had dreams. I had aspirations. I am an intelligent person and I am a go-getter. And I'm like, let's do it. And then all of a sudden they start seeing me doing these things. I'm becoming a dog trainer and I'm building the training business and I'm building this podcast, and they see my Instagram accounts growing and they see the podcast doing well. And they're like, look at, you're actually, this is like, look at what you're doing. And I'm like, what? No faith in me at all, thought that I was crazy, didn't understand what I was doing. But this whole time, nobody wanted me to talk about it. Nobody wanted me to talk about my mental space, what I needed for me. And it took me a long time to realize that being in this space, being here in the capacity that I can be here to help people with their dog, talk about my disability, talk about my mental health, talk about my experience with all of my reactive dogs, and say, hey, look, this is a place where I'm going to show you guys all of these people that I have resonated with and connected with, because I am human and I experience these things. And not every day is bright sunshine, birds and bees singing, and the flowers, blooming, because that's not how life works. And having, like you said, safe places to have these conversations or to listen to these conversations is so imperative to having better lives with our dog. Look at 10 years ago when you got Dio, you felt completely isolated, not seen, not understood, and the best that you had was meeting other parents in a reactive dog group, which was probably not the place that you should have been, right? Right. To now, there are people who train online. There is your community. There is the podcast. There are people talking about pet loss. There are people talking about behavioral euthanasia. There are vet behaviorists. So much has changed in the last 10 years that the next dog is going to benefit so much more because of all of the work that you have put in, that I have put in, that everybody else who is on their own independent journey is going to have to give to that dog, because they are going to understand things that they didn't understand. But it's going to make them open to learning new things and having different experiences with a different dog, because every dog is different and we can't expect them all to be the same. And I think that for me is kind of like the most joyful thing about the dog, is that let's roll the dice. Let's see what we got this time.
Let's see what we got this time. I love that.
I have a light.
See what we're in for.
I'm like, give me the hard one.
Right.
The hard one's going to come
get,
flying right at me.
Magnetized to you or something like that.
Yeah. Toby was hard too. I don't talk about Toby a whole lot because his backstory is bad and I don't want it to be his identity, but he was used as a bait dog. For the first 2 years of his life, he was kept in a cage, and I'm pretty sure that 75% of his meals were poop. He was in a bad space. He was mostly feral when I got him. But now what does everybody see on Instagram? They see Toby the potato. Right. They see the little cuddle bug Toby who does naughty things and eats poop and is constantly begging for food. And they love it.
Right.
But they don't know
where that came
from. We went through to get to that point.
Right. Well, and it's the idea of growth and healing. We forget how much of that occurs in community, occurs in connection, occurs in relationship, right? And that's true for dogs and for people and for the connection we have with them, is that having support, having spaces to hold you up and to give you different perspectives, different opportunities, to give you different experiences with other people that can help heal and replace the ones that maybe weren't so great or weren't so supportive. That's really important and it's really essential. And it's essential, I think, for dogs as well.
Do you have a story or an experience that you can share that was humbling, that just hit you in the gut and you were like, oh, man?
Yeah, I do. I've shared it before, but I'm going to share it again because I think it's the one that sticks out to me so much. And it felt like a gut punch now that you described it that way. I'm really sitting with it. The day I realized Dio was not a therapy dog, despite him passing the therapy dog test. So we worked for 4 years on reactivity, on resource guarding, on his anxiety stuff, his confidence, our connection, everything. For me to have a therapy dog, because I wanted a dog who was going to go to work with me. That's what I wanted. I was very fixated on that. For better or for worse, I was fixated on it. There's some reasons that actually ended up being good for us, that I was so laser focused, but it was my goal. I wasn't listening to him. I wasn't. Part of that is because I didn't know how to listen to him. So I do want to give myself some grace. I didn't really understand what he was telling me, but part of it was because I wanted what I wanted with him and had that vision from day one, actually day zero, before I even got him. That was my vision for a dog in my life. We passed the test. We passed the Canine Good Citizen. We passed the Pet Partners Therapy eval, which I like to jokingly call any of those tests haunted houses for dogs, because they are, let's just see what you can handle. Let's throw all this craziness at you suddenly in a span of an hour. But he did it. And he did it because he trusted me. He did it for me. Not because he wanted to do the work, right? He did it for me. I see that now. About 2 or 3 months, I would say. It wasn't very long of me saying, we passed this thing. I'm bringing my dog to work. I started bringing in like twice a week, maybe 2 or 3 days a week. And he started getting the craziest flaky dandruff. He's a black dog. So it looked like he got snow on him like every day. And I was like, oh my gosh, he's having a skin problem of some kind. I'm panicking. I take him to the vet because I'm like, oh gosh, something's wrong with the dog. I got to take him to the vet. Took him to the vet. They were like, well, when does this happen? And I realized that in talking with them about it, that it only happened on the days I took him to work. Stress. I didn't know that could be a stress thing. Had no idea. And my vet, I had a lovely vet at the time. She was so sweet about it. And she was like, so this could mean this is a sign of stress. He's just like shedding fur and dandruff. I felt like that's where I felt that gut punch. It was because of an expectation I had of him and a vision I had of him, not what was actually best for him. And I could like get teary talking about it, honestly, because now 6 years later, I'm horrified that I did that. I'm horrified that I pushed him to that point. But I also understand I didn't know better at the time. I truly didn't. And once I did know better, I mean, I never took him again. From that vet appointment on, like, he was a therapy dog for 10 minutes and that was it. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't dismiss it. You know what I mean? Once I learned, I was like, crap, I'm never doing this to you again. I'm so sorry, buddy. But getting through that guilt was hard. But more importantly, really, is I learned that lesson of it was my expectations. It was my vision, and I wasn't factoring him in. And that was a huge game changer for me, honestly, also in my mental health with him, because I did set down the expectation. I did set down the vision. And that was hard. I had to grieve that a little bit because I really wanted that. But it actually led me to enjoy him for who he is so much more. I was getting there, I feel like. We had a pretty great bond through all of that work together, but it amplified so much when I realized I was being selfish with him.
Yeah.
And so if you ask me my gut punch moment with him, it was the one where I was like, whoops, my gosh.
Did you know
I'm
that
pushing you?
Did you know that Fitz was supposed to be a therapy dog too?
No, I didn't.
He was supposed to be
okay.
He was supposed not a therapy. He was supposed to be a service dog because I am supposed to have a fall dog because sometimes get migraines that are really bad and they make me black out. And so I was supposed to have a service dog. But I can't afford to pay $25,000 for a full dog. So I was going to train my own dog, which is why I'm heading down the path of learning how to train service dogs, because I need to have a service dog. I'm supposed to have a service dog. And he learned very early the fall and all that kind of stuff. And one, he's too small. He's smaller than I thought he was going to be. He's only 62 pounds and I'm like 140 pounds. So not fair to him. Need a bigger dog. But the reactivity, the people selective reactivity, the have to bark at everything that moves reactivity. Because again, I'm going to drop this in here really quick. Reactivity does not mean one specific thing. Reactivity does not mean bad, and it does not mean good. Reactivity equals reaction. A reaction could be a bite, but it could also be a lick. It could be a kiss. It could be a punch. It could be a whole bunch of different things, because how you react to a situation emotionally, mentally, physically is what reactivity is. And I think a lot of people have gotten stuck on the buzzword reactivity, and they have negatively assigned it to the category of e-collars, muzzles, shock collars, all the things that have negative stigmas in our community. And I'm trying to change that. But because of these things, I knew very early on that there was no way. He couldn't even be social with dogs. So I knew right away it wasn't going to happen. But it is hard because you have to go, okay, well, now not only can I not have him be a service dog, but I can't get another dog to be a service dog because now I have 2 dogs that are dog selective in my home.
Right.
And now I'm not having a medical criteria that I need to have for myself personally because I'm taking care of these 2 dogs instead.
Right.
And I think that dog life there's a lot of sacrifices in dog life. And you do kind of have to be prepared to pivot and make exceptions where they're needed for their well-being, but also your well-being. And fortunately, over the last few years, my condition has changed a little bit, and I haven't had one of those extreme reactions since before I had fits. So that's good. Maybe I won't need a fall dog, or maybe I'll need a fall dog in the future. But at least by then, I'll be able to, one, be better prepared as a pet parent, but also as a trainer to set myself up for success and set my next dog up for success in that category.
Right.
What about with a client? I know you can't name names or anything like that, but what about a really big win that you had with a client where the client had a big aha moment and it was just really satisfying for both of you?
Can I think about that for a second? I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I like so many, I got flooded. I don't know. I don't know. So actually, I want to answer this in a way that maybe isn't the most like sunshine rainbows answer.
That's okay.
Because I really do see it as one of the bigger wins. And it is a behavioral euthanasia outcome. And it's not a win in the sense that like, oh, we figured it all out and everything's fine. And this person did end up choosing behavioral euthanasia for her dog, which of course is heartbreaking like nothing else. Right? It is just one of the absolute most heartbreaking stories and experiences to go through and sort of hold space for someone through. And yet there was so much love that went into that decision. And there was so much bittersweet, deep beauty that went into that decision for this person who had a young dog. She didn't get enough time with this dog. For sure. It's not fair in that sense, but supporting her through getting to this choice and her seeing it as an act of love, which is absolutely what it was and absolutely what it is, versus her making that decision, but living with self-loathing because of it for the rest of her life. That feels like some of the most meaningful work that I've had the honor to do, honestly. I'm thinking of one person in particular, but I've had a couple similar experiences with clients over the last couple of years that kind of had that outcome where the outcome, of course, was not what anyone wanted and not what anyone envisioned. Was so sad and so hard. But for that person to say, I love this dog so much that I will, and I did break my own heart to do what was best for them and for me. I seem like choking up about it. That feels like the biggest win for me because I know that dog was loved like no other, even though that was the outcome. In fact, because that was the outcome.
Yeah, I can see where that would absolutely be. Wow. See, for me, if I had been able to have a better experience where it had been a beautiful experience instead of me being not only heartbroken and angry about the situation, but also in the middle of an emergency, in the middle of the night, 3 months after my brain surgery, like staples still in my spinal cord, having to put this dog down and not even being able to stay with her because I was so angry and so heartbroken. And my ex-husband was out of town and I was alone with 2 little girls. And think of the difference that would have made for me. I had been able to have that support. I had been able to prioritize myself and my family at the time and go through that process and be prepared for it versus being shoved into it and having, and I'm not saying that you can prevent every single bad thing from ever happening because it's still not a great ending, but at least it had meaning. At least it was for a reason. And at least nothing terrible happened because you were able to help them through such a difficult situation. I mean, what a better gift to give someone than peace and confidence and support in such a rough time. I mean, that's just, that is beautiful. That is incredibly beautiful. And I think that you have every right to get choked up about that because, gosh, I could not do what you do. I could not do it. I coach people every single day when it comes to working with their dog and not against their dog, but I struggle a lot still with my own mental health stuff, which is why I joined Handlers and Humans.
Yeah.
Because I need the support.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's not that I don't too, right? It's just that it got drilled into me a lot in school about how to, I just say to like dog trainers, I'm like, listen, what you do is so incredibly similar to what I do. It's just that I get taught how to deal with it in ways that dog trainers are not taught, which is I'm very much trying to change that, as you know. That's what I'm trying to support dog trainers with is to teach those skills and tools that we're taught. And we're given support and supervision and mentorship is baked into our growth as therapists, right? It's required of us. Really, actually, we can't be licensed without being supervised and having these conversations with other clinicians and things like that. So it's just so normalized for me to have the support and get the support when I need it and to pay attention to my own well-being and my mental health. And I've just been practicing that for a very, very long time. And it's a requirement of my job, basically.
What a better world we would have if everyone was okay with asking for help.
Of course. Right. If I were, I like to say, like, if I were running for president, which let me be clear, I never, ever, ever would. But if I did, I couldn't handle that. But if I did, my platform would be everyone gets a therapist and everyone gets a massage therapist.
Oh, heck yeah.
And both of those things are just provided and you get one every other week and you get some body work done and you get some mental health support. And I just wonder all the time what the world would be like if we all had the ability to drop our shoulders away from our ears, take a deep breath, and talk about our feelings. Everyone, that's my platform.
That's an excellent platform. We need to find somebody who has that platform because
right.
I'm all on that. The mental health check, massage check.
Exactly.
I'm in. This
right.
is like, I'm good.
Right. Yeah. I just feel like that. I don't know. It's an oversimplification, of course, but imagine how we would all feel.
So incredible. Well, do you have anything on the horizon for 2025?
Yes, I have so many things on the horizon for 2025. I'm revamping almost everything, really. I'm very excited. So I quietly pulled down my courses. I don't know if you ever noticed that, but I sort of quietly pulled them away because I'm beefing them up and re-releasing them in 2025. So both my Coping with Canines course, which is for dog guardians, give you skills, tools, support, and exercises to do to help you navigate your own mental well-being when it comes to life with your tough dog, and my person-centered dog training course, which is for professionals who want to learn more about how to actually work with the human side and cope with the human side of things, because you're really carrying a lot of your human clients' stuff. So sort of a big undertaking right now to be redoing two completely huge programs, but I will continue to have the community space, continue to offer one-on-ones, and then be relaunching those two course offerings in 2025 in a way that I've sort of rewritten them and redone them multiple times. I've run them so many times over the last couple of years that every time they get a little longer and I add a little more. So I'm
excited because I went to go take that course and it wasn't there. And I was like, well, what the heck? Maybe I missed something.
Yeah, no, I sort of like very quietly pulled them back. And actually I have a mini free version of Coping with Canines that's going in the community in the next couple of weeks.
Exciting.
People will be able to just access it on my website and people in the community will just have access to it. So there's going to be like a bite-sized version of it that is just free for everybody forever. And then if people want to continue to do more of that work with Coping with Canines, they can purchase the rest of the course. But there's going to be some foundational stuff that will help you and support you right away for no cost. So that's going to be something that's available pretty soon, actually.
Well, tell everybody where they can find you, how they can connect with you, the best way to contact you, all the things.
Yeah. So handlersandhumans.com is my website, and I am the most active on Instagram at handlersandhumans. So DM me, email me, handlersandhumans@gmail.com, send me a carrier pigeon, whatever. I love hearing from folks. I love having these conversations in DM. You're never going to bother me if you have questions. So please reach out. And I always offer free consult calls to see if my work is right for you. I very much am good about saying, actually, I'm not the person to work with. You need a dog trainer. Or actually, I'm not the person to work with. You need therapy. So I will let you know what I recommend and what I think would be most helpful for you. And sometimes that's not me. So reach out if you're not sure and let's talk about it.
It's awesome. I love that you do that. All right. What would you like to leave the listeners with?
Play with your dog. That would be my number. That's That's my one thing. If I get one thing to say, it's please embrace joy with them. Please embrace silliness and being in the present moment and watching them be wiggly and happy. When you get out their favorite toy, really soak that in. Be present in those moments, because that will have the biggest ripple effect for your emotional well-being and for your relationship with them and the life you have with them, regardless of their behavioral challenges.
That is exactly why I teach behavior through play. Love it. Well, you guys, if you're not following Jess, make sure you are after this episode. Look forward to collaborations between handlers and humans and Straight Up Dog Talk, because they will be coming. And see you guys next week.
Straight Up Dog Talk was created by Emily Breslin. It is edited and produced under the supervision of Straight Up Dog Talk, LLC, and Emily Breslin. If you're enjoying this podcast, follow or subscribe and be sure you don't miss an episode. And leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Looking for more honest and relatable dog content? Check out our sister show, Unpacked, with Jerry Sheriff and Madison Simpson. Thanks for listening to Straight Up Dog Talk. See you next week.